Hey everybody. Hey Matteo. Welcome back to Young Engineers of Today. Hope you had a good weekend. Hope you did interesting, fun stuff. Anybody do anything cool? All right, well, hopefully. Anyway, I hope you're ready to continue with Fusion 360 as well, because that's what we're going to be using today, to nobody's surprise. We've probably got about 2 or 3 more sessions left with 123D design, or excuse me, wow, Fusion 360. And then we will be moving on to perhaps VCarve. We shall see. So let's go ahead and get Fusion 360 open. And that'll just take a minute. So we'll just hang out for a minute while it does its thing. Or two, minute or two. All right, off to a good start. This thing apparently has some pretty steep memory requirements. And a lot of stuff to pull from the hard drive. Okay. Oh, there it looks like there's an update. Well, I'll see how far I can get before that update is applied and I have to restart. So I'll go ahead and open up the project we've been working on. It looks like it's updating. That's part of the reason why I've got just an absolutely abysmal frame rate. Let's see what happens once it reaches 100%. I can't talk right now. Blep, 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 blep. Raise your hand if you're going through an update as well. Okay. One hand. All right, so you might run into the same thing as well. Well, in the meantime, let's go ahead and continue with the sketch that we've got going on here. So last time we created a couple of tabs on the kick plate, right? So I went ahead and hid all of the bodies except for the kick plate, and then drew a couple of rectangles on it, one on the side and one on the top. And the side rectangle we dimensioned out, the top rectangle we have not yet. However, that is the plan for both of them. The side rectangle we dimensioned out so that it had a length of 1/4 inch. It had, which was basically just the distance from the side of the kick plate to, it's just ply. It's actually ply. And can anyone sort of visualize why it might be ply? Take a guess as to why it might be ply. Okay, well, the reason why it's ply is because it's going to be a tab that sticks into the side wall of the bookcase to help keep this kick plate anchored in place. That's the same deal with this tab on the top here. That's going to be anchored into the bottom shelf. So when all is said and done, this kick plate will be locked in place by these tabs. Now we've only got 2 tabs so far. We're actually going to eventually have 4, but we're going to spend some time getting these 2 tabs set up first, and then we'll worry about the other 2. So we dimensioned this out so that it's a length of ply, so that it fits snugly with the sidewall and then is flush with the sidewall. We've also got, it is 1/3 of the height of the kick plate down from the top, and it is also 1/3 the height of the side tab as well. So we've got this area over here on the right divided neatly into 3 areas of equal length. The area above the side tab, and the area below the side tab. So with those 3 things, well, with those 2 things, we've actually dimensioned out everything on the side tab. Now we just need to dimension out the top tab. So let's go ahead and sketch dimension. And then I'm going to go ahead so I'm going to go ahead and dimension out the height of the tab, and that, when this gets done, this is really running so much slower because it's trying to update at the same time. I'm going to set it to be ply. Hit enter twice, and make Fusion 360 go away. Okay, there we go. So now the height of this tab is ply. Then we're going to sketch the width, and the width is going to be tab. So now it's 1/4 inch tall and 1.5 inches wide. And this is the size of most of the tabs that we're going to be working with in our bookcase design, at least for now. It's probably going to be modified a little bit in the future, but for now, that is the design we're going to be working with, the sizing and everything. And then we're actually going to sketch a line on this tab right here, and there's a reason for doing that, which you'll see in a minute. So if I mouse over various spots on the line that defines this rectangle, sometimes symbols pop up. I know I'm on the line because I get an X, a blue X on my cursor. I know I'm on a corner because that the top dimension, that's just tab. It's one of our user presets, which turns out to be, I believe, 1.5 inches. And then the height of it is ply. Okay. All right. Excellent. So yeah, if I know I'm on the actual line defining the rectangle, if it turns into an X. I know I'm on a corner of that rectangle if it turns into a square. And then there's one where I get an X and a triangle. That lets me know that I'm at the midpoint on that line. So as you can see up here along the top, I've got my cursor there, I've got a blue X, and I've got a blue triangle just sort of hovering up and to the left of that blue X, which is great. That means that I am at the midpoint of that top line, and that's exactly what I want. So I'm going to go ahead and click there, and I'm going to draw a line straight down. I'm going to confirm that it's straight down because I get the little 90-degree indicator to the right, above and to the right of my cursor. And where my cursor is, again, I have a blue X and a blue triangle, and I have another little blue symbol. It's a little blue square on that line, which is just letting me know that it's a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to go ahead and click there, too. And I'm going to create this nice blue line when you're trying to dimension what, Mateo? What are you trying to dimension that gives you that? Which part of it? Were you able to get one of the dimensions done, or is neither of them going to work? Or has neither of them worked? Okay. Tab's supposed to be 1.5 inches. I may have accidentally put 3 when I was putting them down. Okay. Mateo, go through and see if you can't find any of those little symbols that I was looking for at the end of last class. If you just click on them and hit the delete key, it makes them go away. Right. But try and see if you can't find any of those little constraints, those additional constraints, and get rid of them, because that will probably help things out pretty significantly. They should just, in sketch mode, they should just be visible. Make sure also that this show constraints checkbox is checked, because if you uncheck it, that stuff all disappears. I'm actually gonna continue with this lesson in about a minute or two, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So at about 8:19, we will continue. And I'll show you guys what to do next, because we're actually going to turn this line into something different. All right, so hopefully we've got the line there. On the line, I want you to be in regular cursor mode. So you're not in like line mode or sketch dimension mode or anything like that, just regular cursor mode. And I want you to click on that line you just drew. Bam. So now it's selected. And we've got our little sketch palette window over here, which has all of its stuff that it's always had, except there is an additional one that exists right here, normal/construction. I want you to click on that. And that blue line is going to turn into an orange dotted line or an orange dashed line. In addition, whereas before you could select either half of that rectangle, now it's all one rectangle again. So we've just turned that line into a construction line, just like that midpoint plane that we have somewhere up here. Or I guess somewhere up here. Whatever. Anyway, so if you click on the line, you'll get the sketch palette on the right-hand side, right? Do you see the sketch palette? Okay, yeah. It's going to be normal/construction at the top there. And then that's going to turn it into an orange dotted line. For sure. So now we've got that. We're actually going to use this to determine the distance between the origin and the midpoint of this rectangle. So remember that a construction line isn't actually part of the final product, right? So I'm going to click here on the origin, I'm going to click here on this construction line, and I'm going to bring out a dimension here, and I'm going to make that width divided by 3. Bam, and it's going to stick that tab way further in towards the center of the kick plate. So now we've got one on the side and we've got one in sort of the middle top. Now why do you think I used the origin? Any guesses? How so? Which part is not working for you? Oh, you can't even draw the initial line before making it a construction line? Is that what you're asking? Because you say it won't let me draw the line. Are you saying that you can't draw this line that we drew right here? Okay. So you can't sketch the dimension then? Okay. So you clicked on the origin, right? Like you got the little dot that pops up when you mouse over the origin and you clicked on that? All right. And then you clicked on the construction line over here, right? Like it highlighted and became like a little bit blue when you clicked on it? That's odd. That shouldn't be the case because, hmm. So what? It's trying to dimension out from the origin when you're sketching dimension? Is anything happening when you move your cursor away from the origin? Like, are you getting any sort of like measurement coming out of it or anything like that? Okay. All right. Well, as long as it's working now. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that happens. Yep. This is surprisingly resource intensive. Okay, so yeah, make it width divided by 3. Uh, and so does anybody have any guesses as to why we used the origin? Okay, so I'll tell you. Remember that initial sketch we drew that had like all of the rectangles on it and everything like that? We drew that on a plane that was perpendicular to this one. Essentially, if we were to look at our drawing like this, our initial rectangle drawing, let's not use gray. Let's use purple. Our initial rectangle drawing was oriented kind of like this, at a perpendicular orientation to our kick plate right now. We drew it on that plane and we started at the origin, the actual origin, the Fusion 360 origin, which means that if it's at the origin on a plane perpendicular to this one, looking at it from this angle, we're essentially looking at the drawing side on right there. And remember how we extruded the wall of the bookcase out from our drawing? So the wall of the bookcase is something like that, which means that our kick plate this tab right here is basically butting up against is flush with the outer wall of the side wall of the bookcase, the outer surface of the side wall of the bookcase. So this origin right here represents the start of the outer surface of that side wall of the bookcase. So what we're doing is we're measuring a third of the entire width of the bookcase. That is from the outer wall or the outer surface on one wall. I'd like to do a smaller drawing here. What a charming little bookcase. Oops. So like this is what we're looking at. We're actually measuring from here to here. That's the entire width of the bookcase. That's why we're using width divided by 3. So with that done, we should actually, actually, why don't I just make this easier? Left wall. Boop. There it is. As you can see the origin right there. Bam. With that done, we've actually finished the sketch for that kick plate. Excellent. So now what we got to do is we have to basically extrude those rectangles. So we're going to go to create and then extrude. And so now we've got our 2 rectangles sort of floating here in 3-dimensional space on the side of the kick plate. I'm going to click one, and I'm going to click the other one. So now we've got our 2 places to extrude, and we want to extend it to, so remember doing the 2 object part of extension, or extruding, we want to extrude it to the back. Why? Okay, it doesn't want to cooperate for some reason. All right, let's try it again. So we click both of these things, select the extent to 2 object, and then we click on the back end here. It doesn't want to do that. What if we did this? If we do 1, it works. If we do the other, it also works. So we have to do them one at a time. So, whoops, I need to stop missing what I intend to click. So I'm going to click on extrude, and then I'm going to change the profile to just one of our rectangles. And then I'm going to click on the back end of this kick plate, and look at that. It went ahead and it extruded it across the top of the kick plate. And I'm going to go ahead and change the operation to new body. So now we should have something that is completely separated from the rest of the kick plate. So as you can see here, if I zoom in, there's this little rectangular prism that's floating on top of the kick plate now. And I'm going to hit OK. Scroll around it. Now I got this little black or gray rectangular prism floating on top, this little gray box floating on the top of the kick plate. I'm going to go ahead and select sketch again so that I can see this side rectangle. And I'm going to extrude this one out. And again, make sure it's new body. Hit OK. And bam. Now we got 2 little rectangles here, or 2 little boxes here sitting on our kick plate. Go ahead and raise your hand once you've done that. Oh, okay. All right. Well, as long as you got the dimensions right now, you can extrude them as well. Go ahead and extrude them, and then make sure it looks like what I got here, and then you'll be caught up. But in the wrong place. So the dimensions wouldn't be right if that's the case. What exactly do you mean by that? Uh-huh. My supports. What supports? You mean the tabs? The this kick plate is one big board. It runs almost the length of the entire bookcase. It runs from one wall to the other. Okay. Yeah, yeah. There you go. Let me know when you've sent that, and I'll check it out. For everybody else, yeah, if you've gotten the tabs extruded, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay. Uh, Interesting. What were you trying to dimension when that happened? I see your screenshot, by the way, Mateo. It loaded like that. Okay. Um, what I'd probably do then is redimension that rectangle in the initial sketch. So the sketch where you drew that's that initial rectangle for the kick plate, right? The first sketch that we drew that had all the rectangles on it. It seems like the dimension for that bottom little rectangle that represents the kick plate is off on its width. So try and redimension that, and that should fix this. All right, and we still don't quite have every hand up anyway, so we'll give it a few more minutes and then we can mirror this across. Once you guys get this down though, the rest of the tabs will go much more quickly because it's essentially the same process, just done to different parts of the bookcase. Spinning around like crazy. All right, so we got the two tabs. In case you get to a point, Mateo, where it's just like, I don't know what's going on, we will be putting this up on YouTube as well, so I encourage you to watch it on YouTube as well, just to make sure that you got up at least to the same spot that we're at, and anybody else who might be running into issues with that. Okay, so we got the two tabs as separate bodies. So now what we're going to do, well, there you go. Hopefully that helps. So now what we're going to do is we're going to mirror these two tabs. So under objects, we can select, or under pattern type, we can select bodies. So we're going to click these two bodies here, these two separate tabs that we created. And then for mirror plane, we're going to select that midpoint plane that we created earlier on. It should hopefully still be floating up there. If not, just make sure that it's visible under construction. When that's done, you should see two little gray bits kind of floating here. For some reason, this one on the right disappears when I zoom in too much. Yeah, the one on the left does as well. So if you can't see them, maybe zoom out and they might appear. And then I'll hit OK, and boom, there they are. Now we've got four tabs sitting on the kick plate. Two of them are going to slot into the bottom shelf, and then two of them are going to slot into the side walls. Then I'm going to go ahead and go to modify. Yeah, I'm going to go to modify or combine. Yeah, modify and then combine. And I'm going to click on all of these different bodies and make sure the operation is joined, and I'm going to hit OK. And so now they should all become one happy family. Raise your hand once you've done that. So now if we look at the left and right walls and the bottom shelf when we do this, you can see that the kick plate, those tabs kind of clip through, they're visible. This should give you an idea of how everything is going to kind of fit together. So now we just need to do that with the other bits on the bookcase. Also, you might notice if you zoom in and you kind of move the camera around a little bit, like pan or rotate, you might notice that the texture on the part where the tabs are just kind of freaks out, like it flips out, and there's just, it almost looks like static. What's basically happening there is the texture for the bottom shelf and the texture for this top surface on the tab for the kick plate. What are you trying to delete? No, don't delete the whole board. You shouldn't have to. You should just be able to redimension that part of the sketch, not the body, but the sketch, the two-dimensional drawing that we made. And that should resize that board for you because its dimensions are based on that initial sketch. Um, it looks like it should be that size. Well, so it looks like it should what? Okay, so you've got two vertical rectangles then? Okay. You should only have one that represents the kick plate. There should be two vertical rectangles, and one of them is the back of the bookcase. You might also want to double check and make sure you didn't accidentally click like a couple. They shouldn't be fused together. They're too far apart to be fused together. One should be near the front of the bookcase, the kick plate, and one should be at the exact back of the bookcase, which is the back wall. If they look like they're fused together, they're either in the wrong spot or one of them is too large. I'm assuming that the kick plate rectangle is too large. And that's what I've been saying. You should, so like, let me go ahead and pull up sketch one again and hide the bodies. So the kick plate rectangle should look like this, right? It should just be this little rectangle right here. If it's like gigantic and it's going back here, you need to redimension this bottom line right here that represents the bottom of that kick plate rectangle. You need to redimension that to be, I believe it's ply. So it should only be 1/4 of an inch. See what I'm saying? Okay, let's see here. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with this. This looks fine. You might want to double check and make sure you didn't actually accidentally select the rectangle for the kick plate and then the rectangle that lies between the kick plate and the back wall of the bookcase. Also, on the back wall, the two vertical lines should be selected as well. Okay, tell you what. So in case you run into a situation like that, you should be able to right-click on a body in the browser, and this goes for anybody who runs into the situation. You should be able to right-click on a body in the browser, in this case the kick plate, and then just select delete, and that will get rid of it. Is it giving you an error message, or? I mean, you got to give me more information than that, then it just won't let me delete. Tell me if it's not doing anything or if it's throwing an error message back at you. If the option is grayed out. So you click on it and nothing happens, like it just doesn't go away. Okay. You don't even get like a deletion warning or anything like that? It says this feature is referenced by other features in the timeline. Do you get that? No. Huh. I'm inclined to think that like there's something that happened at the very beginning of this project that's messing everything up, and you might just want to start over new. I don't have many other answers other than that, unfortunately. Because I feel like we've been handling some of the symptoms of what's been going on, but there's something there that I'm missing. That's just everything else is built off of at this point, and that can be the frustrating thing with a lot of these engineering style CAD programs, is because everything needs to be based off of something else. And if it runs into a situation where there's like one thing, if everything's built off of that, it can kind of just bork everything to try and fix that sometimes. And it's just absolutely infuriating. So yeah, okay, yeah. That sounds good. Let me know how that goes. Hopefully there will be a little bit more luck this time around. So yes, back to the thing we were saying. The reason why this is happening is something called Z-fighting. These are the surface that's the top of the tab for the kick plate and the surface that's the top of the bottom shelf are in literally the exact same position. So the computer doesn't know which to draw. You kind of move it a little bit and it flips constantly between drawing both of them. That's why if you've ever played Minecraft and you write something on like a sign, sometimes the words disappear on the sign. That has to do with how the computer renders what order everything's in. And if everything's on the same plane, then the graphics, basically the graphics protocols get confused. And the way that they compromise is to try and draw both at the same time, but not update them unless that surface, you know, is called to be updated. And a lot of times, um, in order to save computations and everything like that, those surfaces won't be redrawn until they absolutely have to be. That is, your perspective changes or something happens to that object. So that's going to look a little weird until we get that fixed, because essentially, if I hide the kick plate again, those areas on the bottom shelf and the sidewalls are still solid. We actually need to cut out holes that are the size of these tabs so that we have holes for them when it's cut out. So that's something we'll address once we've created the tabs for everything. We'll actually make it so that we can just very easily cut out some slots for those tabs, and that will probably be close to our last thing we'll do to get this bookcase up and running. So we'll get the tabs in, we'll get the holes for the tabs, the slots for the tabs, and then this thing will be ready for the cam step, whatever that means. Either we continue using Fusion 360 for the cam step, or we give VCarve a try. But that's actually going to do it for today. So let's go ahead and do the poll questions, and then we'll leave it open for question and answer time, and then we'll break for a couple of days, and we'll meet up again on Wednesday and make some more progress on this thing. I know it's been a bit slow going, and I apologize for that. That's something that I could probably do better, but I want to make sure that we're all at the same pace and everything like that. But hopefully things will get a little bit smoother as we move on. But yeah, so let's go ahead and do that, and then if you don't have any questions after the poll questions, you can go ahead and head out and have a wonderful couple of days.